Joe Gibbs Racing just took a former insider to court, but when Chris Gabehart fired back, he didn't just defend himself. He accused the team of a double standard involving Ty Gibbs. Now the entire NASCAR garage is watching to see what happens next, but this week the walls cracked. The legal battle between Joe Gibbs Racing and former employee Chris Gabehart has erupted into one of the most intense off-track controversies in recent NASCAR history. What began as a dispute between a powerhouse organization and a high-profile figure has now expanded into something much larger: allegations of double standards, a declaration that directly references Ty Gibbs, an amended complaint, a restraining order request, and the addition of Spire Motorsports to the lawsuit. This is no longer just a personnel disagreement. It is a legal fight that could reshape relationships inside the garage. To understand how explosive this situation has become, you first have to understand the weight of the names involved. Joe Gibbs Racing is not just another team. It is one of the pillars of modern NASCAR. Championships, elite drivers, corporate backing, generations of success. When that organization files a lawsuit, people pay attention. When it amends that lawsuit and seeks a restraining order, the entire garage leans in. Chris Gabehart is not a low-level employee. He is a respected figure with years of experience at the highest level of stock car racing. Crew chiefs and competition leaders are deeply embedded in the competitive DNA of a team. They sit in every strategy meeting. They have access to performance data, simulation tools, car setups, and proprietary systems. Their knowledge is both technical and cultural. They understand not only how the cars are built, but how decisions are made. When someone like that departs and legal conflict follows, it immediately raises questions about contracts, confidentiality, and competitive boundaries. The turning point came when Gabahart filed a declaration responding to the claims made against him. In that filing, he did not simply deny allegations. He introduced something far more combustible. He alleged that there was a double standard inside the organization. He referenced how situations involving Ty Gibbs were handled differently compared to his own circumstances. That accusation changes the tone of everything. Enforce rules. If one person is treated, enforce rules. If one person is treated one way and another is treated differently, especially when one of those individuals carries the Gibbs name, it becomes a narrative that spreads quickly. Ty Gibbs is not just another driver. He is both a Cup Series competitor and part of the family that owns the team. That dual identity adds complexity to any allegation involving organizational treatment. Whether fair or not, the perception of favoritism can be as powerful as proof. Gabahart's declaration effectively put that perception into the public record. The timing intensified the situation even further. On February 25th, Joe Gibbs Racing amended its complaint. That action alone signaled that the team believed the matter was evolving. But the real shock came with two additional moves. The team added Spire Motorsports to the lawsuit and requested a restraining order. Adding another organization transforms the case from an internal dispute into an inter-team conflict. It suggests that Joe Gibbs Racing believes actions taken after Gabehart's departure crossed competitive lines. In NASCAR, competitive information is currency. Setup data, aerodynamic insights, simulation models, tire strategies, and even workflow processes can provide marginal gains that translate into tenths of a second. Over a season, tenths become championships. By naming Spire Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing made it clear that they see potential risk beyond a former employee. Even if the allegations are ultimately contested or dismissed, the inclusion itself sends a message. The team is prepared to defend its competitive assets aggressively. The restraining order request is equally significant. Courts do not grant such orders casually. To request one is to argue that immediate and irreparable harm could occur without judicial intervention. It is a statement of urgency. It suggests concern about confidential information, contractual obligations, or competitive integrity. For the NASCAR garage, this is unfamiliar territory at this scale. Rivalries are common. Heated radio exchanges are common. Post-race confrontations are common. Multi-party legal battles involving high-profile teams are not. Inside the garage, conversations have shifted. Crew members who usually debate tire fall-off and fuel windows are now discussing legal filings. Sponsors are asking quiet questions. Drivers are being approached for comments. The story has moved beyond racing. At the heart of it all is trust. Race teams operate on layers of trust. Trust that employees will honor contracts. Trust that proprietary data remains protected. Trust that internal policies are applied consistently. When one of those layers fractures, the ripple effects can spread quickly. For Joe Gibbs Racing, the lawsuit is about control and protection. Teams invest millions of dollars into research and development, wind tunnel sessions, simulation software, engineering talent, strategy departments. Losing control over intellectual property or confidential information can have long-term consequences. Taking legal action is one way to signal zero tolerance for perceived violations. Alleges a double standard is not a small move. It carries risk. It also frames the dispute as more than a technical disagreement over contracts. It introduces questions about fairness and internal culture. For Spire Motorsports, being added to the complaint places them under a spotlight they did not necessarily seek. Even if they are confident in their position, legal entanglements require time, resources, and focus. In a sport where margins are razor-thin, distraction can matter. The broader NASCAR community now watches closely because the outcome could set precedents. If the court grants the restraining order, it could temporarily limit certain actions or communications. That would indicate that the judge sees at least potential merit in the urgency of Joe Gibbs Racing's claims. If the court denies it, that could shift leverage in the opposite direction. If the allegations regarding a double standard gain traction, they could affect public perception of the organization. Even if ultimately disproven, the conversation itself can linger. Sponsors value stability. Drivers value clarity. Crew members value confidence in leadership. This situation touches all three. It is also unfolding in an era where information travels instantly. Legal filings are dissected online within hours. Analysts speculate. Fans take sides. Narratives form quickly, often before full facts are established. In such an environment, every statement matters. What makes this case especially compelling is the intersection of competition and family dynamics. Ty Gibbs represents both the present and the future of the organization. His development as a driver is central to the team's long-term vision. Any allegation that references his treatment inside the organization carries emotional and strategic weight. At the same time, NASCAR has always been a sport built on family teams. Multi-generational ownership is part of its identity. Balancing family involvement with professional management is a challenge many organizations navigate. When that balance is questioned publicly, it becomes a delicate situation. As the legal process moves forward, several paths are possible. The parties could reach a settlement before a full trial. They could engage in extended discovery, bringing additional details to light. Court rulings on preliminary motions could shape leverage. Public statements could escalate or calm tensions. For now, uncertainty dominates. What is clear is that this is no longer a quiet dispute. It is a headline story. It has shifted attention away from lap times and toward legal briefs. It has placed one of NASCAR's most successful organizations in a defensive posture.